Hey there, welcome to the channel. So today I want to look at if a college degree is worth it. I think that there's a lot of people out there that are talking about how, too many kids are going to college and they're getting these degrees that aren't getting them a good job, and they're saddled with, college debt, student loan debt. And this is, I would agree that this can be a big problem, but I think in some circles, this is also kind of being bandied about as like, well, anyone going to college, it doesn't make sense for anyone to go to college. And so let's take a look at that and kind of see what we can learn about it. So one of the things is you can kind of go and just search for like the highest paying college majors. Here we are at glassdoor.com, and we can see here that we have the 50 highest paying college majors here. And so here we see that we have computer science at 70,000 a year, electrical engineering, 68K for mechanical check, a lot of engineering stuff in there. I have a BSEE, this one here, Bachelor of Electrical Engineering. There's information statistics. Statistics, that's kind of interesting. That's coming up because of all the big data stuff. They actually, and then I believe down here, there's mathematics is up here too. Number 12, the reason is, all this big data stuff, they actually kind of just need people to just work on numbers. And then you have your counting, and that's always up in there. Interesting physics is there. So this is the kind of salaries that we just have to take it on face value, right? This is the kind of salaries that you can get. Now you can come out of there and say, look, I didn't go to a top school. I went to a middle level school and I didn't get straight A's. Maybe you get something less and maybe you struggle to get that first job, but it kind of puts you in a ballpark. So let's go ahead and look at it. Would it be worth it to go to a school and get one of these degrees? So I think one of the first things that we have to do is we kind of have to look at the tuition and fees. Now we can look at the average college here. I found this page, average college tuition per state, and it kind of varies, and it's actually somewhat lower than you would think. In-state tuition for a public four-year college here in this column, 9,000. But then a lot of the other ones are actually somewhat higher. Illinois, 14,000, Kentucky, 10,000, and Connecticut should be higher too. Yeah, 12,900. And so what I did is I said, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an assumption that you go to my alma mater, the University of Connecticut. So I look up for this school year, and here we can get the tuition, and I'm going to assume that in-state tuition. Wow, this is a lot more than it was. I think it was something like $4,000 a year for in-state tuition, plus maybe like another 4,000 for all the housing, something like that. So I had a few student loans, and I actually was able to work to pay for most of it for my dad. But let's look at this. So you need the tuition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it the full college experience that you're going to the main campus and you're going to go live on campus. So we have fees. Everyone has to pay that. On-campus housing, 7,000, then the meal plan, 6,000, because like you need your meals, right? And so that's what I had. So altogether, 31,000 per year. Okay, so let's go over here. So let's say UConn, for state, it takes us 4 years. So that's a total of 127,128. Now, then let's check out the student loans. Student loans, this is rather confusing, but you can kind of like look through student loan information. There's actually fees, which is shocking. Disbursement, there's 1% loan fees. That's kind of like, wow, that sucks. And then, you try to figure out what the interest rates are. These are fixed interest rate. I mean, I think over here, I was going to use 4%. Yeah, because I went to this summary over here. Direct subsidized loans, undergraduate. So I'm saying undergraduate, 4-year degree, 3.73. And then other ones are higher. So I just kind of went with 4%. And that would kind of factor in maybe the fees and things like that. So if you took it at 4%, what you have, and they talk about how it's simple interest, how they calculate it. So basically on a monthly basis, you can make an estimate that, and the way it would work is in this, obviously, if you're looking into it, you need to figure that in details. But basically, let's assume that I graduate, I'm making payments on it, and this is what it would be charging. This would be on a monthly. So it's 4% divided by 12 is your monthly interest rate times the balance, and that's all interest. So you're paying $423.76 a month in interest on your student loans because you have 127,000 in debt. So, wow, that's a big chunk of money. And then I added like plus principal. You got to start paying something. Like I know the booklets, like 10-year booklets and stuff. You got to pay something. So I'm going to use this number. So now what I'm going to do is compare, well, is it worth it to do this? I think one of the things that I wanted to step back and look at is let's look at some of these degrees. Computer science. Now, do you need a computer science degree? Well, I think that there's a lot of programmers out there that don't need a computer science degree, web programming, just like basically you can sit down at a computer, you can start learning and teaching yourself, and you can take online courses. And there's a lot of stuff for computer science that you can do. A lot of the web stuff and all this, you don't necessarily need like a full kind of computer science degree, or a lot of times this will be in an engineering program. So you get an engineering degree. And so an engineering degree would have, like, for example, you'd get like 2 years of calculus, you get a year of physics, and plus all this other discipline stuff. So it's definitely necessary for certain jobs, but for other jobs, it's not, right? So that's definitely a case where you can see that. Now, computer science, if you have that, you're usually getting like an engineering background. So you're getting a more formal kind of education. So you're getting more theory in the background. Now, for a lot of places that doesn't matter, but in a lot of places it does. Even like game development, understanding all the math about how you make things move, collide, all that stuff. I mean, it's all, it's math, and you can figure it out. But, that does kind of help. It's funny, like I was on a job, and, we had to do a modem for a satellite. And so, we have this thing called the Doppler effect. And, basically he had to figure out, well, how far is the frequency going to shift? Because the satellite's moving relative to the ground station, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is the Doppler shift, right? And so just really simple stuff, basic physics, basic calculus allows you to figure out, like, estimate like how far that frequency is going to shift. And the most important thing is understanding the concept, right? That could happen. If you didn't understand that would happen, you would design something that clearly would not work, right? The radio, the receiver we had would not work, right? So that's the kind of stuff where it's applicable, to have some of that theory in the background. But I agree, for computer programming, you don't necessarily, need it for all that. Electrical engineering, this is something that, this is my degree, so I know it the most. And I mean, it's just, look, you can go learn this stuff on your own, but it's to get kind of the theory down. Like I said, you need 2+ years of math would help. It just gives you that context. And then all the, the math and the electrical stuff, even just like circuit stuff, Thevenin and all that stuff. And there's a lot to it. So, there's a lot of theoretical stuff that takes a couple years to put in. So if you could be self-motivated and learn that on the web and actually like learn it, that's really good. That's great. But it's really hard to do for the average person. So that's where there's maybe value. Same with mechanical, and chemical. Like, okay, yeah, if you can sit down and learn chemistry, but like all the chemistry processes, so that's like a lot of these things. Civil engineering, same kind of thing. You have all this theory in the background that, it's kind of good if you understand it. It's like, you don't just sit down and you hack computers, hack designs. I mean, that's what I do in some of my videos, and I do it that way for fun. But when I'm doing my real work, it's like there's a lot of theoretical underpinning to it. And then, statistics, your nursing, obviously, and then you need the accreditation, because if you're a nurse, you kill someone, right? If you do your job wrong. So a lot of these do require like it benefit from a more formal background to give you the context to do your job better, even if you don't use it on a day-to-day basis. So let's just look at it then a little closer in terms of the money angle on this. Okay. So now over here, I'm just going to zoom in. So what I'm doing is full-time, I'm assuming full-time, 40 hours a week, person making $15. I'm calling minimum wage, right? So basically that person is basically earning this. So I've calculated 52 weeks times 40, and I'll just calculate it that way. Assume that there's 52 weeks per year that you get paid. Hopefully 2 of those are paid vacation, but that's not the case for people at 15 maybe. But basically you come out $31,000 a year. Let's say you're making a little more, $20 an hour, $41,000 a year. Okay. And then what you do is, like, I just have these different cases. What if you're making 15 an hour and you got a college degree and you got the student debt, $20 an hour college debt. And then I have the degrees. So it's like, okay, 70,000 for this degree. That's coming out to 5,800 a month. That's pretty decent money. So let's kind of look at that and see what happens to the finances. So what I did is I said, this hypothetical is a person getting a 4-year degree, taking student loans out for all of it, and they get it done in 4 years, which can be hard to do. And it's a University of Connecticut. So the other side of the coin is, well, where are you going to live? So I just said, well, I found this website. Oh, Connecticut average annual rent. So I'm looking at some of these places and it's like, oh, average monthly rent in Bridgeport, 1,001. Well, you don't want to live in Bridgeport. I mean, Bridgeport has got a lot better, but when I was a kid, it's like you couldn't stop at stop sign, you get freaking killed. And I know it's got a lot better, which is great. Stanford, very expensive. 2,393. So, and then Waterbury with the cheapest at 980. Once again, Waterbury, you don't want to live there. I went to the UConn Waterbury branch, and I mean, it was fine, but you know, Waterbury's got problems. So I just said, look, near where I used to live, Danbury, Connecticut, 1,880. So it's almost $2,000 a month. So I'm just going to pick that. So that's my rent. So there's your rent, other expense. This other expense, I'm just putting a number in there. I'm putting $1,000. Remember, that's for everything. So that would be any healthcare, any transportation, you know, whether you have a car payment or you know, bus or whatever. Also your food. I mean, really to get away with like 100 or a couple $100. So a week for food is really hard. So I just threw $1,000. That's a blanket thing, and it's there for comparison. So here's the thing. So if you're at $15 an hour, you know, you're kind of struggling. You basically have to work this 1,000 down, right? Because you're negative, right? But you have no student loan payments, so that's good. At $20, you know, you make it a little more and you're actually positive in this scenario, 580 a month. Okay, that's really good. So here you're actually in, you know, pretty good shape. Now, here's where the problem comes in. If you had college, well, okay, so let's not look at these cases right now. Let's go over to here. Let's look at, hey, you got one of these degrees that are more desirable at 70,000, 65,000 and above. Well, here, you know, hey, you still get it rent at 1,887, $1,000 expenses, student loan, you got to factor that in at 623. But look at, you have this nice cash cushion coming out. I mean, you're in most of these cases, you're clearing 2,000 a month. So that is, pretty good deal. Now, so what would I say? Like if you're getting a degree, right? You know, look at the numbers and do the research. If you have a degree that's going to earn you some kind of money and you can do the math, figure out where that point is, that's going to get you beyond that $20 an hour, then it starts becoming worth it to take on that debt and to take on the student loan. And then obviously it would be better if you did less with the less loans, like try to find a way to pay for it, grants, all that other kind of stuff. But then it's clearly worth it, right? Because look at the salary you're getting. And this is just your starting salary, even at meager 2% raises per year. And like a lot of these guys, like even at blah, blah, blah companies, you're going to get RSUs and stuff. And that could 10, 20, 30,000 a year, depending how the company's there. It could add a lot more. So in conclusion on this, if you're getting a degree with a desirable degree that with a high starting salary, it makes a lot of sense to do whatever it takes to get that degree. Okay. It just does. The numbers add up. So here's where the problem comes in. Here's where we get into trouble. This is where you hear the horror stories. You know, if you only end up making minimum wage, $15 an hour, but you got this debt, now you're screwed. Right? At $15 an hour, now you're in a hole. You're almost $1,000 short. And then even if you do it a little better at $20 an hour, you're still short. And this is the situation where people are getting screwed, right? And so there's many that, like, in our family, we used to make fun of, like, you know, we would have, like, you know, especially UConn basketball, right? They had pretty good basketball teams many of the years, or at least people were interested in them. But, you know, a lot of these kids were just, you know, they're there to play basketball and that's their focus. And I actually respect that because they know what they want to do and they're really focused on that, but they're not interested in school. So we used to say they'd be taking like basket weaving courses. And it's like courses that aren't going to get you, or taking a degree, a general liberal arts degree that's going to give you no specialized skill, that's going to like help you make more money. So here's where the problem comes in. You know, and this is just like UConn, like if you were going to Yale or some other really high-end university, you could rack up much more debt than this. You could rack up 200, 300,000 in debt. Maybe not. I don't know. At one point, what point do they stop lending to you? But this is where the problem is. So this is where you get screwed. If you graduate with a degree where you can't get a job and you have to go work at Starbucks for $15 an hour, then you're boned. It's very difficult. It's actually not possible to pay the student loan debt back. You can't even pay it back. So you're in a really, really tight spot. And this is where the stories where people focus on. And this is where I agree college is not worth it. If you have to go to college to start a career that's going to make you money, to make it worth that, there has to be the financial end. So if you want to go and study whatever it is, this studies, that studies, all this weird stuff, philosophy, that's all fine. It's all fine to study that. But the simple fact is, like, very few people can make money in that. The only people, like in things of philosophy or this studies or that studies, these weird things, the only people that can make a decent living at it are the professors. Now, if you're a professor, you're not going to do 4 years, right? And very few people can. You have a class with 1,000 students in it, and you're lucky if one of those students in the whole program, out of whatever 10,000 students, one will actually go on to get the full PhD and get the teaching job. Everyone else is just out there working at Starbucks or doing whatever. So I think that that's kind of the key. You have to figure out, if you're going to spend the money, you're going to have to do it a little bit like a business. You're going to have to look at it like a business. Like, do I invest this money or not? And if you're going for one of these degrees, then it's definitely clear that it's worth investing the money. Now, what I would say as well, like what I did, is I didn't do 4 years. I did 2 years at basically a branch office. And you can do that. I mean, California, in the California system, you can do like the junior college. You can do your lower 2 years of stuff, first 2 years of study. So you can cut this way back. You can cut this to only have to do like 2 years, like on campus at the high cost, or at, in that type of a thing. So I think that's kind of the key here. It depends on the situation. Everything is individual. I think the problem that we have right now is we have just too many people in this situation. They were told to get a degree. They didn't really know what they wanted to do. So they just picked something that doesn't have any kind of a good outcome. And now they're saddled with that debt, and they want someone to resolve the issue. Now, I feel for them, because you need to understand that, they were told like a lot of half truths, and they were told like, well, you get a degree and then you get a job. It's worth it. You get the prestige, all this stuff, and you got nothing. There's a lot of people in this situation that are making nothing, and they didn't get the prestige. They got a PhD. Some people have like a master's, a PhD in something. And it's like, well, nobody needs a master's or a PhD in that. So they're not going to pay you. They can't pay you for it. And then you're in that position. The degree on its own didn't mean anything. Now, I really, as well, I feel for people that don't have something that they want to do. Like very often, like for me, engineering, it took a little while for me to get around to that double E, but when I decided I wanted to do it, I freaking wanted to do it. Like, I was like, this is what I want to do. And so I could I was motivated to do it. And that's what you will see with a lot of these degrees is like, if you're looking at this, these degrees do not come in easy. These are a lot of work. They have significant dropout rates. You're going to have a lot of stress. Like the computer science courses I had, some of those were like, oh my gosh, this is really difficult, really a challenge. All this stuff is. And so that's sort of the other side of the thing. So you got to really be interested in it. And so if you're not interested in anything, then it becomes a real problem. So I appreciate that. And so in conclusion, it depends on what kind of college degree you're going to get, what your major is going to be. That's the key thing. And if you're going to be in a situation where your major, go ahead and find out what is the current starting salaries, the high-low range of the degree that you're interested in getting. And if it's going to be this, and it's going to cost you this to go get it, it's not worth it. That's it for this one. Talk to you later. Bye.